next. Next on KOVR 13 News, how lazy college kids could jeopardize the Scott Peterson venue change.
Time flies. Local crooks make off with $40,000 worth of Rolexes.
Startling 911 tapes released in that deadly California mountain lion attack.
Plus, cussing crackdown. A local congressman's crusade to stop trash talk on your TV.
For all of Northern California, this is KOVR 13 News at 10, the Valley's #1 10 o'clock news.
Big joke, and they knew that. I think honestly, a lot of students felt that it wasn't going to go much further than this campus, and when it did, they were absolutely shocked.
A bogus college survey could blow a major decision in the Scott Peterson case out of the water. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. A suspicious survey muddies the waters in the Scott Peterson venue change.
What happened was the judge based his decision partly on a survey by students at Cal State Stanislaus, and that could prove to be a costly mistake. Gloria Gomez joins us now to help sort things out. Gloria?
Jen, out of all the surveys turned in, the judge thought one of them was very thorough. It was conducted by students at Stanislaus State, but now we're hearing it may be bogus.
It's obvious that the students made up the results, and I've had several people tell me that that is what they've done.
Krista Harden says she knows some of the students who admitted fudging the numbers on a Peterson survey. Krista says the students were handed the assignment close to finals, usually considered crunch time for college students.
Students, under the time crunch, didn't have time to make these phone calls on top of finals, on top of their personal commitments, and they literally sat there with highlighters and pencils and circled the answers and made them up, one after the other, and that's what they turned in, and that's what they're calling research.
The prosecution survey asked.
Yet it was that research that impressed the judge in the Peterson case.
Considering the many statistical surveys authored by various experts and offered by both the defense and the prosecution, the most thorough was that of Dr. Schoenthaler.
Judge Al Girolami even factored those poll numbers into his decision to move Scott Peterson's murder trial out of Modesto.
You're attempting to say that there's validation of what you do.
I'm saying there's validation, not attempting to say. I'm saying that there is validation.
As part of a class project, Dr. Stephen Schoenthaler, a criminal justice professor at Stanislaus State, used 65 students to conduct the phone survey. University officials say if the results are bogus, there will be consequences.
Once the students are interviewed, they'll make a determination according to policies that are already in place about student dishonesty, if there is any.
Jen, what's the next step for the prosecution? Well, that's unclear at this point, but they will like to talk to those students who actually conducted the survey to figure out if these allegations are true. As far as the university is concerned, they say they will conduct their own investigation. I asked if there will be any kind of disciplinary action against the professor. They said, well, it's too early to tell, but generally when there is any sort of disciplinary action, it's sort of a letter of reprimand that's put in their file. They said, but of course it's just too early to tell right now. They could have some answers for us in about a week, they said. Reporting live in Stockton, I'm Gloria Gomez. Jen, back to you.
Who could have guessed something like this could have happened? All right, Gloria,
another
thank
twist.
you. Mm-hmm.
And this is really a case where time flies, but local store owners are having anything but fun. Crafty crooks made off with thousands of dollars worth of brand new Rolex watches, and tonight police are hoping surveillance video will help crack the case and catch the criminals. Curtis Ming live at Arden Fair Mall with the story. Curtis?
Well, Paul, it happened last month here at Arden Fair Mall. It didn't take very long, but when it was all said and done, $40,000 worth of merchandise was gone. It appears to be an elaborate, well-thought-out scheme. December 11th, several people walked into the Devon's jewelry store at the Arden Fair Mall. Several surveillance cameras were rolling.
It was during the day. These appeared to be respectable customers that came in the store.
But they proved to be anything but. Watch the three people in the middle of your screen distract the clerks. Feet away, another camera captures a man figuring out how he's going to break into the case filled with Rolex watches. He looks back to make sure no one sees what he's doing. And within a minute and a half, he finds a pick, picks the lock, and pockets 3 Rolex watches valued at $40,000.
These were people that went in there and knew exactly what they wanted to do, had a plan. It appears that they knew that they were going to distract the salesperson while this other suspect lockpicked one of the cases and took the items.
The suspects are described as an African-American woman and 3 African-American men between their late 30s or early 40s. No one from the store wanted to speak on camera, but police were eager to release the surveillance video.
And we're concerned that these same suspects may be going to other locations within the city and county of Sacramento and perhaps other places in fact, the state of California.
If it weren't for the security cameras, police say the clerks most likely would have never known exactly how the valuable watches were stolen.
It was only the video that the store had that they were able to capture what actually occurred. The actual salesperson did not see what happened at all.
Now back out here live, if you have any information on those suspects, you're asked to call the Sacramento Police Department. Reporting live tonight at the Art and Fair Mall, I'm Curtis Ming. Paul, back to you.
Wow, Curtis, I might have missed it, but why did they wait so long? It happened December 11th. Why did we wait so long to see this video?
That's a very good question. We are all kind of wanting to know the answer to that. In fact, the store, somebody who worked at the store would not go on camera, but told us they were actually surprised when they found out that the video was released today. So it's really unclear to us. We weren't able to get that answer as to why it was released 1 month after this all happened.
At any rate, it's a pretty good shot of it happening.
Right, the store people were thinking that these people were probably long gone. We're only talking about 3 watches that were worth $40,000. There's really little hope that those watches will be recovered at this point.
All right. Curtis Ming, thanks.
Nevada County authorities are now saying a head-on crash that killed a UPS driver was no accident. Drew Reynolds was killed while working in Grass Valley Tuesday. Police say 37-year-old Scott Krause carjacked a box truck and then deliberately crashed it head-on into Reynolds' UPS delivery truck. Krause suffered a broken leg, and today police charged him with murder.
It's quite apparent that there was no intent by him to move out of the lane of the opposite traffic. He was going on a straightaway straight. He had plenty of opportunity to move that vehicle out of the way, which he chose not to.
The victim, Reynolds, is survived by a wife and 2 daughters. And a memorial service for him is set for Sunday at 2. The service will be held at the Hooper and Weaver Mortuary that is on Hollow Way in Nevada City. A series of violent carjackings has authorities in Sacramento on alert. Since the new year, carjackers have already hit at least 3 times. On January 4th, a driver was forced out of a car at gunpoint. It happened at Franklin Boulevard and Meadowgate Drive. 3 days later, carjackers pointed a gun at another driver and forced him to get out of his vehicle at 30th and Q. And just yesterday, a third carjacking at 24th and 51st Avenue. 2 suspects pulled up alongside a driver and forced the victim out of his car.
Tonight we're getting to hear the dramatic 911 tapes made after a mountain lion attacked a cyclist in Southern California.
We got a lady that is attacked by a mountain lion in her face. Her face is almost gone. I need people out here at Whiting Ranch, Cactus Ridge, on Whiting Ranch.
So she was attacked in the face and then drug off?
Yep, drug off, and the mountain lion clung to her face.
Okay, does she have just bite marks, or did they take off a lot of the skin?
Yeah, there's skin. There's chunks hanging.
And we have more tonight on that fatal attack outside Los Angeles. The attacks happened in the Whiting Ranch Wilderness Park in southern Orange County. Here's Chris Lawrence with more details.
No mountain lion has killed a man in California in 10 years until now.
The victim was disfigured by the animal.
A woman was seriously wounded by a mountain lion Thursday, and the man attacked and killed on the same trails when his bike broke down.
We know that because we found a small link to that chain a few yards away. So it appears that the victim was attempting to fix his bike when attacked by the mountain lion.
On Friday, officials opened an investigation into the killing and closed the park where the terrifying attacks took place. The cats are usually timid, and until 1995, officials had recorded only 9 attacks on humans.
But every year, the homes push closer and closer to their territory, and the bikers end up sharing these trails with the lions. Usually they keep to themselves, but this attack came out of nowhere.
This mountain lion jumped on her back, started dragging her, so I grabbed her leg.
Debbie Nichols was riding with her friend when the 110-pound lion attacked Ann Helly. Its jaws locked around her face.
Debbie was hanging on to Ann's legs, and Ann was facing her head downwards down the ravine, and the lion was just pulling, and she wasn't going to let go.
Other bikers heard them screaming and used the only ammunition they could find.
Picked up a boulder, a rock, and threw it out in the mountain lion's head, and the mountain lion would not let go.
But they kept pelting the cat with rocks until it finally ran away. Officials arrived in helicopters armed with rifles, and when they sighted the cougar, killed it. Officials estimate there are up to 6,000 lions roaming California, but it's illegal to hunt or kill them. Chris Lawrence, CBS News, Whiting Ranch Wilderness Park.
And the friend whose tug of war with the mountain lion may have saved injured Ann Helly's life says she's no hero, but Debbie Nichols is credited with a heroic struggle with the big cat to free her friend, while others pelted the mountain lion with rocks.
I think that the people who were there did everything right as to speak to her good condition.
She's very strong, you know. She was a Marine, so she's a tough cookie.
I just said I can't hold on to her much longer, and he would keep moving.
Thanks to her friend's courage and timely aid from strangers, doctors say Helly will survive. Now, locally, we have many of the same kinds of rugged recreation trails that are popular with bicyclists. For runners in Gady Park, the wildlife is a reminder: where you have deer, you'll have mountain lions, especially with New Sierra housing creeping into lion country. But the recent attacks are not typical of big cats. They usually shy away from humans.
It's something that I hope doesn't result in people avoiding the outdoors now, because this is an extremely rare situation. But I think it does emphasize the importance of being aware.
That means staying alert and watching your back. If you come face to face with a mountain lion, make yourself appear as big as possible, make a lot of noise, and slowly back away. A Sacramento firefighter who's already facing charges for selling steroids has now been arrested on suspicion of intimidating a witness. 28-year-old Michael Roper was featured on the front cover of the Feel the Heat fundraising calendar. In November, he and his girlfriend were taken into custody on charges of selling steroids. The intimidation arrest was made Wednesday. Roper is on paid administrative leave from the Sacramento Fire Department. Governor Schwarzenegger released his plan to relieve California's budget crisis today.
And it includes major cuts to state programs, but it comes with one promise: no tax increases. Here's Shada Fadipi with the story.
And it is difficult. It is painful. There is no two ways about it.
Schwarzenegger's first proposed budget is slashing some programs aimed at helping the poor, the disabled, and even those trying to get a job through welfare to work. In fact, the governor wants to cut $1.7 billion from these services.
Because we have to make savings in so many different areas in programs that I love, that I care for. But this is the only way we can do it, because we don't have the money.
But his words sound hollow to some who point out he could cut less by taxing some wealthy Californians who are earning more than $200,000 a year.
Well, everybody has to tighten their belt except the rich and corporations. I mean, that's the one group that he has not attacked.
Schwarzenegger also wants to take $1.3 billion in property taxes away from cities and counties, just weeks after pledging to help them. Some call it a real low blow.
Oh, it's painful. Counties have a mandate for health care, foster care, social services, so it's particularly burdensome on them, particularly when you're cutting the state programs as well.
Graduate students are facing a 40% tuition hike under the governor's proposals. His budget, like some of Governor Gray Davis's, relies heavily on deferred payments, shifting money around, and borrowing billions of dollars.
Doesn't that worry you, the borrowing aspect as a Republican? Doesn't that worry you?
Well, nothing in this. I'm sure there are many aspects of this budget proposal that are not perfect from my perspective, but we find ourselves in an incredibly difficult situation right now that has to be resolved.
Charlotte Fadipi, KOVR 13 News.
So now the fun begins. Lawmakers have until the end of June to debate the budget plan and come up with the one they like. Voters must still approve the governor's plan to borrow $15 billion, and the polls show the public isn't so hot on that idea. The state school superintendent today said he expects schools to receive the $4 billion they expected to get. Public schools are guaranteed that amount under Prop 98. State schools chief Jack O'Connell says California's economic recovery should bring in more tax revenue to pay public schools what they're owed. Governor Schwarzenegger has said that his budget will delay $2 billion of that amount, but raise per pupil spending.
The Bush administration has lowered the nation's threat level from high to elevated, saying threats have declined in recent days. But as Terry Okita reports from Washington, key industries in certain U.S. cities remain on high alert.
This year's holiday cheer followed security fears, and for 3 weeks, the nation endured unprecedented safety measures. Now, Homeland Security officials say threats of an attack have diminished, so they're dropping the terror alert from code orange to code yellow.
Yellow still means that we are an elevated risk of attack, and we will maintain particular vigilance around some critical resources and locales.
He won't be specific about which locales, but known areas of terrorist interest like Washington, New York, and Las Vegas are expected to remain on high alert. During the holidays, there were concerns of possible dirty bomb explosions at large gatherings and celebrations in those cities. Also staying on heightened status, the nation's airlines and airports. During the Code Orange, intelligence reports focused on another possible attack using commercial airliners. 16 international flights involving U.S. routes were canceled, prompting a call for more international cooperation on aviation matters.
We need to establish a better protocol to deal with the kind of threat information that led to either the cancellations or the delays.
The terror warning has jumped to Code Orange several times since the system began 2 years ago. Some estimate it costs $1 billion a week to raise the nationwide alert.
Secretary Ridge says it may be weeks or months before they can confirm whether a terrorist attack was actually thwarted over the holidays. In Washington, Terry Okita, KOVR 13 News.
Hoover Dam in Nevada and the Las Vegas airport are among the places still on an orange alert.
Placer County is mourning the death of a soldier who was recently killed in Iraq. 23-year-old Jesse Meisner was killed on Wednesday at a military base in the Sunni Triangle. He reportedly died when anti-American insurgents fired mortar rounds at the living quarters on the base. 30 other soldiers were hurt. This is a picture of Meisner and his newborn son just before Thanksgiving. Big news tonight from the war in Iraq. The Pentagon now considers Saddam Hussein an official prisoner of war. That decision would entitle him to rights under binding international agreements. The ruling could also complicate future war crimes trials against the imprisoned former leader. Meantime, U.S. forces were back patrolling in force in Saddam's hometown. The new raids come after 9 U.S. soldiers were killed in the downing of a Black Hawk helicopter. And at least 6 worshipers were killed when a bomb detonated at a mosque in the town of Baquba. No group has taken responsibility for that attack.
A congressman wants to ban dirty words from broadcast television. Congressman Doug Osee is furious over choice words uttered on live TV and angry over the government's lack of response. But as John Baird reports, some people think the proposed law has little meaning, especially when you look at cable channels.
What's the problem with hitting the bleep button, you know?
Congressman Doug Osee has had enough of foul language on broadcast television.
I think they're pushing. Everybody pushes, you know, that's just the nature of the world.
But Osee is pushing back. He recently introduced a bill aimed at over-the-air broadcasters and stopping profanity. We won't exactly spell them out for you, but Osee wants to ban the so-called 7 awful words. Shit, and
people just don't want to hear that stuff come out of their TV. This issue of not being, you know, a verb or a reference to a bodily function, I mean, give me a break.
Osee doesn't want to give broadcasters any more breaks. He wants to hold their feet to the fire and feels he has a lot of support. But not everyone agrees with his idea.
I mean, it's silly.
At the University of the Pacific McGeorge Law School, Professor John Sims points out the bill won't stop the trash talk on cable.
The idea that in a society in which that sort of language is very common, almost ubiquitous, that you're going to somehow improve public discourse by trying to plug one little hole in the dike strikes me as silly.
Case in point, did you see Coach Bobby Knight go off on the media without the bleeps?
You know, that is an absolute crock of bull. You know, you people in the news media, all of you dwell on some negative piece of bull like that, and I don't know how Steve feels about it, but it just pisses me off.
And then there was Jermaine Jackson defending his brother Michael Jackson during a live phone interview on CNN.
But I am sick and tired of everybody saying these things about my family.
Cable's a different matter. You're paying for that. You're choosing what you're watching.
Osee thinks the FCC was really splitting hairs when it ruled the F word was okay because it was used as an adjective.
Somebody wants to split hairs, we'll hold them down and shave their head.
But the law professor believes Osee is in for a close shave of his own when he tries to get the bill pushed through.
Oh, I'm sure it won't go through. There's no chance.
You're saying you think this is totally unconstitutional?
Yes, it is. The effort to ban certain words as unacceptable would, I'm sure, be rejected by the Supreme Court.
We can meet this. We're gonna be fine constitutionally.
The war of words continues. Stay tuned. John Baird, KOVR 13 News.
Congressman Ossie says he's had hundreds of calls, letters, emails from constituents who support this law. However, he has no idea whether he'll be able to get it through Congress, but he's going to try. Well, will a weekend storm have local residents in the mood for colorful language? Let's hope not. We're checking in with Dave right now.
Yeah, the situation we had this afternoon, the rain that came in here, that's pretty much the extent of the bad weather for the weekend. So it'll be a lot of pleasantry, I'm sure, around Northern California. As you can see here on the California satellite and radar combined, a little bit of moisture kicking through everywhere from about 1/10 of an inch of rain in around Sacramento to a 1/2 inch up toward Yuba City and a little more the further north you go. And of course, it changes over, what's left of it changes over to snow at around 6,000 to 6,500 feet, but there's hardly anything left. What's going to happen after this? Well, we'll clear the skies out and it's going to get a bit foggy. So you might have a few choice words for that tomorrow morning, or if you are back in, say, Boston, you may have a few choice words back there about the weather because the wind chills were at 20 degrees below zero this morning. That is the warm ocean water there. Again, morning lows, not counting the wind chill, in parts of Vermont at 35 degrees below zero. And they're going to have to deal with this cold weather for one more day before it starts to warm up. Highs tomorrow will only be in the teens. So that makes it pretty exciting to live out here in the west. Even though we'll see temperatures in the 50s, we will get some cracks of sun out there between the clouds, but we will have to deal with a little bit of fog here and there. We'll have your full 5-day forecast in just a bit. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Sure.
Coming up on KOVR 13 tonight, President Bush shoots for the stars. More on his ambitious plan for a permanent colony on the moon.
New at 10. She asked for forgiveness. Now she'll have to answer to charges. Criminal charges, the payback for the Ohio woman who tried to steal the Mega Millions jackpot. Plus, the president calls for a manned mission to Mars. Why the warm-up could be a permanent base on the moon. And his cell phone made her fess up. A Florida music teacher's tryst with her 11-year-old student exposed by steamy text messages. But next, too dazed and confused in the Valley? We'll tell you which area city tops the list of the most stressful places to live. Coming up on KOVR 13 News, the Valley's #1 10 o'clock news.